immigration enforcement and call on the city to adopt a formal sanctuary policy. The demonstrations remained peaceful, with organizers including Movimiento Cosecha, GR Rapid Response to ICE, and Indivisible of Grand Rapids, emphasizing support for immigrant and refugee communities and urging residents to stay informed about their rights. Local elected leaders have acknowledged these concerns publicly and affirmed that local police do not enforce federal immigration law. Mayor David LeGrand has said he is concerned that a sanctuary policy will give residents, quote, a false sense of security. First Ward Commissioner Drew Robbins announced last month he is resigning from the City Commission to run for the open Michigan House 84th District seat. His resignation will be effective Friday, March 6, and his last meeting will be Tuesday, February 10, according to a letter he shared on Facebook. Robbins' current term expires on December 31, 2026. The City Commission will appoint someone to fill the rest of Robbins' term, and voters will elect a new First Ward Commissioner in the November 3 election. Robbins was elected to the Grand Rapids City Commission in 2022 when he defeated incumbent Commissioner Kurt Ruppert for the First Ward seat. The city's First Ward encompasses all of the west side as well as a portion of the city east of the Grand River. The Grand Rapids City Commission amended 2 ordinances and updated an existing policy last month, including updates to noise control regulations and civil infraction enforcement. The policy update applies to the city's ethics and financial disclosure policy. The first ordinance amendment, which was approved with a 4-3 vote, prohibits operating any device that creates amplified sound within 100 feet of a hospital or healthcare clinic measured from the property line. This change is intended to protect patients and staff from disruptive noise near entrances and exits. Commissioners AliciaMarie Belchak, Marshall Kilgore, Melinda Sassi, and David LeGrand voted in favor. Drew Robbins, Kelsey Perdue, and Lisa Knight voted against. Opponents raised concerns about how the 100-foot buffer zone could impact demonstrations and free speech near medical facilities, while supporters said the change balances First Amendment rights with patient safety and access to care. Commissioner Perdue expressed concerns about the proposed ordinance, noting that downtown has an abundance of healthcare facilities and is a common location for protests. She said the 100-foot rule could be confusing for both protesters and law enforcement, and is worried about opportunities for, quote, increased escalation. Perdue moved to postpone this item to allow for more discussion. However, the motion to postpone was voted down in a 3-4 vote. Belchak, Knight, and Perdue supported the motion to postpone. Kilgore, LeGrand, Robbins, and Isasi opposed. A companion amendment updates the municipal civil infractions ordinance by removing the option for a misdemeanor charge for multiple noise violations within 6 months, aligning enforcement with the updated noise ordinance. The ordinance revisions will take effect February 12th. The Commission also adopted revisions to its conflicts of interest, ethics, and financial disclosure policy last month. The updated policy sets a minimum expectation of transparency and encourages elected officials to disclose more than the required information. Beginning in 2026, each elected official must file an annual financial disclosure report with the city clerk by May 15. The disclosure report will include spousal information, employment and income, organizational roles, assets, liabilities, and employment agreements. This policy was approved unanimously by the City Commission. Last month, the City of Grand Rapids temporarily adjusted how it enforces its sidewalk snow removal ordinance after recent heavy snowfall and extremely cold temperatures. Property owners are still responsible for clearing snow and ice from sidewalks. However, if a property owner shows a good faith effort to clear snow and ice, such as shoveling, scraping, or using salt or traction materials, and the sidewalk is reasonably passable, the city may close the complaint even if some snow remains. As of last week, the city said they were receiving about 60 new complaints a day regarding sidewalk clearing. While loosening up on snow removal enforcement, the city is still asking residents to clear snow for first responders. Business owners are required to clear and maintain all exits for their buildings, and residents are asked to clear both the front and back entrances to their homes. The fire department is also encouraging residents to clear a 3-foot radius around any fire hydrants near their homes. Grand Rapids World of Winter Festival continues through the month of February. Though frigid temperatures and blizzard conditions have caused organizers to postpone or cancel certain events. Crowd favorites like the Silent Disco and Winter's a drag show continued as planned and brought out hundreds of people to enjoy the cold West Michigan weather. Upcoming World of Winter events include art installations, a drag story time, music performances, a Winter Olympics watch party, and a human hungry hippo competition on the ice rink at Rosa Parks Circle. More event details are available at worldofwintergr.com. After an assessment by the Natural Resources Conservation Service of the U.S. Department of Agriculture, the city's river restoration project advances to the next step. NRCS determined the project will not cause significant local, regional, or national environmental impacts. As a result, NRCS concluded that an environmental impact statement is not required and will send the environmental assessment to the chief of NRCS for authorization and consideration of funding. The river restoration project aims to restore the rapids, improve public safety, enhance aquatic habitat for native Great Lakes fish and mussel species, and expand river access and use. The restoration will involve removing 4 low-head dams between I-196 and Fulton Street, grading the riverbed, and installing boulder arch structures, among other changes. Construction permits have been secured and the city is reviewing bids for a contractor. A recommendation to the City Commission for a construction contract award is expected by early March. The final NRCS funding authorization is anticipated in the same time frame, with construction on the lower reach anticipated to begin in July. The City of Grand Rapids Parks and Recreation Department is asking for proposals for its new urban ag project, developed in collaboration with the Urban Agriculture Committee, to support community projects that improve health, the environment, and neighborhood connections. The department will offer short-term funding and infrastructure help for approved projects in 13 city parks. Projects could include community gardens, farm plots, hoop houses, rain gardens, raised beds, or cultural gathering spaces. The first round is now open, with a second round expected to open in fall 2026. Proposal deadline is March 2 by 11:59 p.m. Awardees will be notified by the end of March, with projects starting in April and wrapping up by September 2027. Parks and Recreation is hosting a listening session on February 18. More details can be found on the City of Grand Rapids website. Visit the Grand Rapids Documenters website to learn more about what's happening at City Hall and in boardrooms throughout the city. That's it for city updates. When we come back from the break, we'll be joined by First Ward Commissioner AliciaMarie Belchak.
For over 30 years after humble beginnings as a public access TV station, the Community Media Center has grown to be an active, multi-platform media and technology assistance organization, encouraging and enabling our community to push the creative boundaries. We power a variety of resources, including a music-centered community radio station, WYCE, a community venue with stage and screen at Wealthy Theater, citizen-driven journalism with the Rapidian, a web development team empowering local nonprofits, an education department that trains and broadens students' minds, and a free speech public access television studio, GRTV, where it all began. By introducing audiences to new voices and ideas, we enhance community engagement and create connections between artists and audiences, enriching our city's cultural offerings. We empower and collaborate with platforms and resources accessible to all and used by all. Every free democratic society depends on media, accessible to the community and uncensored by government. The Community Media Center continues this work for the media landscape of today and tomorrow. These platforms and services empower our neighbors to tell their stories and explore the richness of culture that Grand Rapids has to offer. Connect, discover, learn, create, and share. The Grand Rapids Community Media Center.
Welcome back to City Connection. I'm your host, Allison Donahue, joined by Commissioner AliciaMarie Belchak. Welcome back to City Connection.
Hi, thank you.
It's been about a year since we've had you
has.
on, and that means it's been about a year since you've joined the commission.
It has. I'm now in my second year, and it's been a great big learning curve, a lot going on, and it continues to be my honor and just like a wow factor that I get to serve in this way.
One of the things that you ran on during your campaign was being a mom and how working mothers should be able to fill this role. Has that played any role in your first year as commissioner?
I definitely think so. I continue to be the working mom on the commission. I'm the only commissioner with kids under 18. A couple of my fellow colleagues have kids who are grown or even my age or close to, and then many of them don't have kids yet at all. So I feel like it's really important because it informs how I see the future of the city and who will be benefiting and or having to deal with the decisions that we make every day. Absolutely.
What are some other lessons that you've picked up over the last year?
There's so many, right? So one of my personal goals as I took office was to really pull the curtain back and find out what works, what doesn't work, what levers there are. There's like a lot to learn, and not just how the city works as out in the public, but how it works sort of behind the scenes. And what I've learned is that there are a ton of dedicated, hardworking public servants on the front lines, in the middle, and doing engineering, doing thinking, doing all sorts of community engagement, and those decisions filter up into different boards and commissions. It's a distributed network of decision making. Not everything comes before the city commission. We don't make planning decisions ultimately. So if there is a new development or a zoning variance or anything like that, that is entirely taken by the city planning commission. And so we get to appoint some of the people on that. The mayor, some of us individually as commissions have people in different roles that we get to directly appoint, but that really requires citizen engagement because they're not elected, but they are representing the voices of the city and the people who have to live here and making those decisions. So I'm really encouraging people, now that I am in my second year, I'm now sitting in the appointments committee, and we have openings, everything from the urban agriculture committee that you were just mentioning in your previous segment, all the way to mobile GR, to community relations. We have a civic community group about that. So these are boards and commissions and committees that we need people to apply for, to be interested in. You can go to the website. I don't know, I always have to Google it. Everyone asks me what the website is. I'm like, it's a long URL. So just, Google Grand Rapids City Commissions Boards. It'll come up, and there's a great website there that you can click on what's open, what's not open, how to apply. Even if it's not open, apply. And those come to us as personal, resume kind of things. We view them, we vet them, and I always encourage people to sit down with me, have a coffee, and let me get to know you. And when we find people that really fit who we're looking for, we get to help speed that process along. So get people involved.
Yeah, can you demystify that process a little bit for folks who might not feel like they are qualified for a commission? Do you have to have a certain background in public policy or?
Absolutely not. if you are on, let's say, the community relations, which we have a lot of openings for right now, that is a group of people who have a direct voice into say, how does the city interact with the public, and what do we want to say as a committee of citizens to the public? And that feedback goes directly up through the different staff, and if necessary, even can come in policy decision making to the city commission. But the group themselves is just making recommendations, ideation, and can take action on their own. And that's true of like urban agriculture or like the Parks and Recs Advisory Board. Those folks would have the staff reporting to them saying, here's what we're working on, what feedback do you have? And it's a critical pivot point, actually, because, for instance, I'm going to pick on last year's news, if that's okay. One of the things we can celebrate in the ward is that we have a new park in the Roosevelt Park area being built. And there was a bit of a stir and controversy over the naming of that park. And part of that was there were some critical steps that needed to be made. And that advisory board has the possibility to say, what about this? What about that? I really want you to go back and check on these things before we vote to pass it on to city commission. And because of circumstances, they voted, the feedback wasn't directly taken, and it did come to city commission. And in that case, the city commissioners agreed that we want more stringent, more results, more something. And so then we had to throw it back. But in an ideal world, that is a pivot point where that could have been caught in this, like, let's look at the statistics, or let's get more input, let's go through another round of feedback, things like that, before city commissioners have to make a big vote. So it's real decision making is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And the Urban Agriculture Committee probably is going to be doing the same thing with this project that the Parks and Rec is bringing up.
Yeah, that sounds like a cool project. I'm hoping that a nearby park of mine gets a community garden.
So I'm going to just put my little plug out there to everyone watching, like, try to get involved somewhere. And if you can't get involved there, talk to your neighbors, get involved with your neighborhood associations. We have so many of them in the ward and throughout that are doing great things. And, you know, even one of these commissions that we put people on is the Corridor Improvement Authorities. And I know like South Division, Granville Avenue we've got lots of openings, but there's the West Side Corridor Improvement Authority. There's like 5 or 6 of them all around, and those have like tax capture dollars that get to be spent back into the community, helping businesses with their facade improvement or making the streets better so we can have more business walkability and things like that. So yeah, look at them, get involved, and if you have any questions, I'm always available. I try to make time for people and encourage you to do that.
Great. Well, thank you for that. One other piece of news that we talked about at the top of the show was that your ward mate is running for Michigan House, and as of next month, I believe is his last city commission meeting. Yeah,
so first of all, I just want to say I'm really grateful to Drew Robbins for the work that he's been able to do, and I appreciate some of his ideas and feedback, and certainly learning alongside of him this last year has been interesting and informative. I think he has brought a good balance to the commission in terms of some of his ideas, and but at the same time, it's unfortunate that he's leaving mid-year because it does create a little bit of a circumstance for us to have to deal with. I'm fully prepared to be a strong advocate for the first ward no matter what happens. So I think that this transition that he's offering in a way, because he's not able to attend the last meeting of February, so he did announce that February 10th would be his last commission meeting, but he will be officially working behind the scenes until at least March 6th, when he will officially resign to do his whatever next step he needs to do. So in the meantime, he's already been working with me to, you know, constituents that are used to dealing with him, you know, start making those introductions, bring them to me, and you know, going forward, it was already going to be an election year. We had 2026 is going to be a huge election year in a lot of ways. And we've had several people behind the scenes reach out to me to ask about running, or, you know, what would be a good thing to do. And this is, again, another way we can get involved. And just like when I made my decision to run, I was looking at what does the community need and can I fill that? And so for me personally, I'm encouraging those who are interested in running, you know, to continue having those conversations. I don't think anyone's officially announced or put in their what is it? That's all their signatures that you need to have. in the meantime, nothing's been discussed at the city level, at the commission level, about how we're going to handle the opening. We have a few weeks to figure that out, and even after that, I think one of the biggest detriments is that we're also in the middle of a city attorney search, and right about March is when we're going to start doing those interviews, which should all be public and available for people to watch. So we've got some very intense days already on the calendar coming up. We're talking long days, and Commission Night Out's going to be in March as well. And so I'm not sure exactly what the schedule or plan will be, but we will talk about that as the commission. What to balance all the things like filling the seat versus waiting till someone's elected. This is a little different than I think what happened in the 3rd Ward, where Commissioner Moody resigned in like September timeframe, and there was like a long time before there would be an election. But there's been no official conversation really yet. Drew just announced last week. So I think that it's going to be an interesting year, an intense year for the City Commission. I think that it's going to really require people being willing to give us a little bit of grace as we work through these process, but also it's a great opportunity for civic engagement. And can I jump ahead?
Yeah.
Rather than wait for you to ask a question. So one of my word for 2026 that kind of evolved sort of spontaneously at the end of December in a commission meeting, and I repeated it at the beginning of January, is civility. And I want to be really clear what I mean by that. I don't mean it in the traditional sense of, well, I have to listen to everybody and be polite and, that West Michigan nice kind of thing. I mean civility as in, what does it take to build a civil society, a society where we want to live, we want to engage, and it requires us getting to know each other, but also being able to roll up our sleeves and get in there. So what kind of infrastructure do we need? That goes for the physical infrastructure and the people infrastructure. What kind of engagement do we need? What kind of open new ideas? I mean, I feel like we are at a pivot point in a lot of ways nationally, but increasingly kind of in the city, we've got so many good things happening, and yet there are so many people hurting. And so when we can link arms together and build a community where we actually see each other for individuals, for neighbors, not statistics, not, oh, those people over there, I think we will begin to build a civil society, if you know what I mean. So that's kind of what I'm looking for. And how I want to show up in leadership. I think that the ward opening is a huge opportunity to have real community representation. Someone who's going to, for me, I would be looking, if I were voting, someone who's going to be advocating for the regular working class, who's going to be looking at how we're spending our dollars so that we are being mindful of what needs to be done for these big visionary opportunities, but also how are we making it still affordable to live here? And that could be everything from parking, which I know was a discussion this last week. We can talk about that. I didn't prep you on that, but all the way to the real opportunities in housing. And we need to be thinking differently. And I think one of the questions that the mayor and I have just recently been discussing is what is the purpose of government, and what do we want to do? Do we want to do government the way we always did, or do we want to do government new? And where are those pivot points? Because they're not everywhere, right? Some places, no, we want to keep going the way we are. Government's doing good. But there are other places that maybe we want to do maybe it means something different to be in government.
What is your answer to that question? What is the purpose of specifically local government, like the citywide government?
I mean, local government is nuts and bolts. I'm a mom, but I'm also a mechanic.
Okay.
It's like, get in there and how are the streets being cleaned? Am I advocating for those who feel like their neighborhood isn't being in? How do I communicate back that this is the priority streets? And it's been very, very hard for our snowplow drivers. I just want to give them all a huge shout out. I know there are neighborhoods and streets that feel like they don't get plowed. I'm going to be straightforward. My street does not get plowed until maybe the 3rd, 4th, or 5th day. And especially when it's coming down 1 to 2 inches day after day after day, hour after hour after hour. interesting. I actually got to ride with a snowplow driver like a couple weeks ago, and to watch them like have to move around cars that are not being moved. Okay, every other side parking, ladies and gentlemen, it really matters. You know, you've got cars that are snowplowed in, and they have all these buttons and joysticks, and they have to like maneuver around it. It's like this giant, I was joking, it was like this giant video game, but it's like scary because like
It's real life.
it's real life, don't hit a car. And so I think we need to remember this is the kind of community we need. Like if you need help remembering to move your car, let's have some help. If somebody, your neighbor down the street has got an illness or whatever and is in snow plowing, maybe you help them shovel their sidewalk. We just have to band together and think of it as a holistic environment instead of a me versus my neighbor or me versus the snow plow, or why didn't my street get plowed? I probably am talking too long about that. But so you asked the question, what is local government? I mean, at a fundamental level, it is making sure the trash gets picked up and the snow plows get plowed, and there we have all the staff in the right places to do the planning and policy, you know, that we implement that. We say, here's the policy, they got to go do it, right? So, and then of course budget for all of that, making sure our taxpayer dollars are used in the right way for the benefit of the most, you know?
One conversation that's been coming up pretty frequently, probably your entire time that you've been serving,
Yes.
are calls to declare the city of Grand Rapids a sanctuary city. I understand that there's been hesitation from the commission on doing so, but those calls are not dying down anytime soon, or so it seems, especially since hundreds demonstrated downtown to get the ear of the mayor and the commission. What is your reaction to that today for these folks that are saying they want the city to make this declaration that they're safe here?
Yeah, I mean, this really has been a year-long thing. So if I took my seat in January, it was pretty much within the first couple commission meetings, we were having a large turnout of folks asking for this. And I want to be very respectful and caring in this moment. Like, I empathize. I completely understand the fear, the grief that we are going through as a nation and the things that we're seeing happening, the concern over First Amendment rights, Second Amendment rights, the concern that we, the people, have to show power so that we can do what needs to be done nationally. And I think that those things are really, really informative and helpful and necessary. We have to continue to stand up. But the right place, right time kind of thing does matter too. And I think that building solidarity and community by protesting is absolutely necessary. There's also another step, which is advocacy, which is taking the right actions, right? And so we need to be in the sanctuary city conversation, really looking at where do we have the power, and the power is at the federal level. We need to have our Congress asking and doing the right things to oversee federal agencies. It's not the city's job to do that. We have city resources, and the mayor says it all the time, we don't have an army, right? The federal folks do, and if they're weaponizing it, then that's what's happening there. But we as a city have made it very, very clear that we've had policies in place since 2017 and 2019 that are largely what a lot of folks are asking for when it comes to that. So we have the foreign nationals policy for the police, and we have a similar policy for staff. We do not ask for immigration status, we do not collect data, we do not do any of these things. And we continue to look behind the scenes and ask hard questions. I know I have a fellow Commissioner Perdue who's asking what else can we ask for, and I'm in agreement with her. What else can we ask for? But the truth is, the answer keeps coming back zero. We can't look for data that doesn't exist. So we will continue to monitor, we will continue to ask for specifics, but that's why we have OPA, which is the Office of Public Accountability. That's why we have internal affairs reviews. That's why we have the Civilian Appeals Board. We have to have folks say to us, here's a specific incident, time, date, address, person, then we can investigate it. But we can't generate data out of nothing and make assumptions. But I get that the zeitgeist is full of fear, anger, grief, and those are all real things. That said, we'll continue to look at our policies, and whenever there's a chance to update them that makes sense, we will, definitely.
So the conversation is happening in the background of...
Yeah, I think that we've made our public statements and our public views very, very clear, and right now nothing has changed. Right now there's no movement to change anything. The mayor's been very clear, and if you talk to lawyer type people, they'll say sanctuary city doesn't mean anything in and of itself. It's not a legal term, it's not a legal protection. It doesn't, if anything, there is a real risk it could put a target on our back. So we're balancing all these issues. So you asked me earlier, like second year, what have you learned? And I apologize if this makes anyone feel uncomfortable, but since I'm the only mom on the commission, well, with kids under 18, there was one meeting where it just occurred to me, I was like, oh, I get it. A little bit like being mom up here. It's like, okay, I really understand you, I hear you, I'm taking all the data, I'm taking all the feedback, I'm interested, I'm listening, I'm going behind the scenes, I'm asking questions, I'm getting more. And at some point, someone's got to be the adult in the room and say, okay, kids, I hear you. I know it's not what you want. I know it's not what you want to hear, but this is the facts of where we are, and this is how we're going to move forward. And right now, that's where we are with Sanctuary City. I feel like we're doing everything we can to protect our folks, and it's got to be not what can government do for me, it's got to be what can I do for my neighbor. It really does.
Good. All right, it is about time for us now to take our break. When we return, we'll be answering questions from viewers like you. To take part in the conversation, send in a question to cityconnection@grcmc.org or submit a question through the Rapidian's Instagram story @the Rapidian.
You asked me some good...
Why do local businesses spend their marketing dollars with Community Media Center? Because it's more than just passive advertising. It is an investment in the community that is eager to invest in you. The Community Media Center makes Grand Rapids vital. We collaborate with local businesses and support events in West Michigan. Inclusive. We amplify local voices that tell the diverse and ever-changing stories of our community. Creative. We encourage artists to showcase and expand their talents and to shape the look and sound of Grand Rapids. Marketing with the CMC will let our community know who you are and increase brand recognition for your business. At the end of the day, we are a resource that will keep you connected to the community. Share your message with diverse audiences by underwriting with WYCE, GRTV, Wealthy Theater, and the Rapidian. Join us in building a stronger community through media. Contact us at marketing@grcmc.org.
Welcome back to City Connection. It's February 2, 2026, and we're joined here by Commissioner AliciaMarie Belchak. During this part of the show, we'll be taking questions from viewers. Starting with a question from Instagram, what are you going to do to prevent data centers from coming to Grand Rapids?
That's a really great question. I know that Commissioner Kilgore has been putting this front and center. It's been an ongoing conversation. Right now, it would be up to any zoning or planning. I think that there's some preliminary discussion on what could be done there, but we're going to be continuing to monitor that and look at that as planning stuff comes through. Recently, we've had a couple of new folks get new old, well-experienced folks in the planning world get put on the planning commission, and I believe they're going to stand up and do the right thing and really ask the hard questions and think about it. We don't have a lot of space here in the city. It is possible there could be a data center, that's multi-story or something like that, but more likely it's going to be a real burden on the suburbs and the places where there's bigger land and larger capacity for that sort of thing. So
could that still have an impact here in Grand Rapids, like if they're using our water or electricity?
Well, I think that's where we have the opportunity to set policy here in the city to talk about if it's allowed in our zoning, in our requirements for those plans to be approved, what would be allowed. Like maybe it's a requirement for a community benefits agreement that puts more back into the community somehow. Maybe it's engineering requirements that require the closed loop so that the water stays inside and not keep drawing. It might be energy considerations. Are you generating your own energy versus pulling from the grid all the time? So that does impact potential climate plans because that's probably likely going to be compressed gas or diesel or something like that they're going to generate from, unless they decide to do also solar, but it's not going to be enough. So I think it's one of those situations where data centers are an emerging issue and we need to be monitoring it. We need to be looking at what are the rules and regulations we can put in. No good answers yet, but that's where we would definitely need to continue having the conversation.
And to be clear, as far as I know, no data centers have been proposed in Grand Rapids.
Right.
A couple neighboring
We are
areas,
definitely at the forefront of the conversation and proactive, so that's good. And so in that way, we're being protective, but nothing's been ready to be decided yet. And I do think we need to be thinking about how do we help our neighbors if that's an issue people really care about. It is going to be places like Kentwood, Wyoming, Walker, Comstock Park, things like that where, maybe even Ada, where things could be put, Caledonia, right? Think about all the different places it could go in the county.
A lot more space out there.
So check in with your county commissioners might be another option.
Definitely. This question comes from Oliver. If there's a gap between Robin's last day and the appointment of a new commissioner, how will the city ensure that the first ward is equally represented in decisions being made?
Wow, thank you, Oliver.
Very thoughtful question.
Very thoughtful. This is exactly the word I was going to use. So Oliver, I'm prepared, to represent two people, but it wouldn't change, fairness on the commission. We all have an equal vote. What it would do is put us in a commission situation where we would have 6 instead of 7.
Right.
So we could end up with more ties if we're not, aligned. The good news is it feels like it's a long time away, but it really isn't too far away. I think that the election in November will come quicker than we realize. So I think that in terms of fairness on commission, the decisions that are coming before us tend to affect the entire city. So it's not like I have to represent just my ward or we need a second vote. I think it's more about balance and what votes are we representing. So I think that in the past we've had a variety for the ward from maybe a little more progressive to a little more conservative, a little more fiscally conscious to maybe a little more bold. And so the question is, what do we do to fill the gap? And so I think as long as we continue to hear from you, Oliver, and folks like you, and get your input, my job is to make the best decision on behalf of the entire city, and we'll just be down a vote until that happens. So hopefully we have no ties, because then that's a clerk question. I'm going to need to find out what our standing rules say about how to break a tie. But even the mayor's vote is exactly the same equality as my vote.
And your inbox might be double.
I think that's the more of the bigger impact, is that my role will be busier, my job will be busier. But luckily, this still remains my full-time focus, so I have some capacity to do that.
Okay. Another question coming from Katie. What role do you think the city plays in educating drivers about pedestrian safety and accessibility, such as not blocking crosswalks?
Wow, that's a great question. That's a tough nut. So among all the top tier things I hear about from people who are upset or sad or whatever, right? It's like, it's something to do with streets usually, or sidewalks. It's like people are speeding. It's I don't feel safe walking. It's snow plows. It's what are they doing with the construction that's messing up my traffic time. So we have a speeding problem in the city overall. The police chief has mentioned this a couple of times, but more could be done to educate folks and talk about it. Most of our streets are 25 miles an hour, or some of our main roads are like 35 miles an hour. So if everyone just practiced slowing down, we would increase pedestrian safety and biking safety by a ton. And I do have a little bit invested in this. My own child a couple years ago was hit crossing the street going to elementary school. And that was just someone dropping off a kid and started to take off. And luckily it was under 20 miles an hour, but she's okay, luckily, but it was scary. She has, some long-term things she's gonna probably deal with as an adult from that. And I think that we all need to do that. Now, I have a great idea. I would love some folks who would want to help me implement my idea to launch an education campaign of how to slow down. I've got a whole list of brainstormed ideas. So feel free to reach out. We'll have coffee and I'll share those, because I think we could start an neighborhood organization kind of thing where we start doing that, and bumper stickers and everything, you can be mad that I'm driving slow, but I'm saving someone's life. I mean, that's the long version, but the idea.
Well, if they're driving slower, they'll have time to read the entire bumper sticker.
Now, in terms of parking, we have enforcement issues. There's some clash between whether it's GRPD's job or GR Mobile's job. So we continue to navigate those things. If you have specific time, place, pictures, whatever, report it. Send it to 311. We get those. They get tracked. They get closed. It at least creates data that we can look at. And the other place would be your neighborhood association, because they're tracking those things as well.
Great. One more question before we take a break. This one comes from Sarah. Are there city resources available for folks who may be physically unable to shovel their sidewalk?
So the countywide millage for seniors was passed and is run through the area agency on aging. There are some grants that have been given out for folks to get sidewalk shoveling help. So if you're a senior, apply there, reach out to senior neighbors, they can help connect you as well. For the rest of us, I don't know of a whole lot. There's a certain districts that are in the sidewalk plowing that the city has taken on. So if you have a specific location, again, it always comes down to give us the location. If you have, I would love to talk to you more, maybe put you into some resources. 311 is our one-stop call to City Hall, and that sounds like I'm making a canned speech now, but it's for real. And I actually had the opportunity to sit with some of our 311 people and take some of those calls, and it was interesting. So we'd be happy to connect you to the right resources if there are any. And in the meantime, neighbors, let's help our folks who might need help on the street.
Great. I believe it is now time for us to take another break, but when we return, we'll be taking more questions from the public.
It's morning in Grand Rapids. Do you know what's going on in your city? Stay informed about what's happening in your community with The Rapidian, your source for hyperlocal news and information. The Rapidian is a community-focused news source powered by local residents like you. Our volunteer writers and reporters create content that hits close to home about topics like local government, business, schools, events, and people. The Rapidian goes beyond the headlines to provide in-depth coverage of issues that affect Grand Rapids directly, so you can stay in the know. We aim to uplift the community by sharing positive, inspiring stories of growth, progress, and neighborhood pride. The Rapidian is your neighborhood newspaper for the digital age. Follow us on our website and social media to stay connected to your community. This is The Rapidian.
Welcome back to City Connection. We're joined by Commissioner AliciaMarie Belchak, taking questions from the public. This question comes from Kenneth. Kenneth asks, while Sanctuary City doesn't have a legal framework, declaring Grand Rapids as one would demonstrate that the city is willing to fight for our rights, a fear exasperated by the city being afraid of a, quote, target on their back. If the policies are already in place since 2017 that are largely in line with declaring GR as a sanctuary city, then what is the harm in stating our values publicly?
I appreciate that question. I can tell this is someone who's very passionate about the issue. I think I was pretty clear that we don't want to be making statements that are not accurate, and there are places in our community where people are very afraid. And so we want to respect everyone, including the people who want the right to stand up for their rights. Like, that is a very important thing. And there are also people who have specifically said, and they're in the right population, so I'm not like taking this from wrong parts of the community, folks in our immigrant communities that are worried about being targeted more by having attention here. We don't want to see, I tried to be as clear as I could a couple commission meetings ago that it is my expectation that our police officers and our community will respect freedom to protest, freedom to speak, freedom to have their rights asserted, and that I want everyone to have the utmost civil, distinguished, I don't want to say distinguished, but professional engagement, so that I do not expect us to be like anything we're seeing on the national news. Mm-hmm. Now, if something where we get an invasion from outside, then it is up to individuals to step up and be a community together to do that. It is not something city government can do. It's not in our legal purview to do. That's my understanding. That's a hard question. I hope I answered it, but that's an ongoing thing. Please talk to the mayor more. He's the lawyer. I'm not.
If I can follow up with one question. Specifically, one of the asks is that GRPD does not work with ICE.
That is exactly what our policy states. And we have checked with the chief many times. He comes to the Public Safety Committee, which is recorded and put on YouTube, just like our regular city commission meetings, just like GR Mobile, like a lot of planning commission. They're all there. You can attend them. You can view them. He has said it very clearly. We keep asking from behind the scenes, are there any violations? Are there anyone? And again, unless I have someone who comes to me with time, place, person, we can look into it. It's just a feeling, a fear, a general thing. It may be true and it may not be true. We don't know. There's a lot of confusion out there, even around certain circumstances that have had on the west side where people were calling and ICE is here and it's not. It turns out it was, DEA and GRPD doing a drug bust. We want those things happening, we don't, but we can't be like seeing everything and assuming the worst. We have to be going on data. I, as a commissioner, have to go on data. So that's what I have to say there. What's the harm? The fact is that from our point of view in government and from a legal standpoint, there is harm. And at this time, we're gonna look at the policies and make sure they're fully updated, but that is the equivalent. And we don't need to name it. I don't need to call the color blue for it to be blue, right? I don't have to call it aqua when it's blue. It is what it is.
Last question from community member as of right now, but I've got more, don't worry. Paula says, I've seen a lot of downtown restaurants closing in the past 6 months. Is there something systemic going on downtown causing this issue, or is it just related to tough economic times?
Well, I think every business has its own story, so it's kind of hard to put everything in a large swath in a big bucket. But in general, just like we all are concerned about affordability and whether we can pay our bills, I think some of our local mom and pop shops are really struggling. I think that they were just barely coming out of the COVID downturn, that people were just starting to come back, to have social hours and things. And now we're in a world of economic chaos, social chaos, possibly legal chaos, and whether or not it's happening here or just people are aware of it nationally, it changes people's behaviors. It changes what we're willing to do. Are we fearful? Then we're not going to spend money, right? We're just maybe, and reality, food is up, electricity is up, water costs are up, everything is up. And a lot of us, our incomes haven't changed. So the real value of what we're making has declined while the cost of everything has gone up, and we're not spending money. Even myself, I was just starting to really spend money in fun ways, and now I'm really reevaluating. Maybe people will meet me at City Hall instead of paying for coffee all the time, because it's a lot of money after a while, and I don't get a budget, a separate budget for it. It's coming out of my regular income, and I'm I gotta pay for the kids' things and my things. So I don't know what's happening with individuals, but I do know there have been some of the businesses I'm aware of downtown, they were not doing well. Their balance sheets were not good for several years, and they just looked ahead and didn't see an outcome that was going to be positive. It was better to cut the losses. Some of them, their lease was up, and the cost of the lease was going to go astronomically high, and again, had to do that economic thing. Some people may have had personal circumstances, but I do think one thing we can do is look at the businesses we want to stay open and try to give them business, especially when we're talking about some people are participating in national economic strikes and things like that, boycotts. Well, one place we can spend is in the local shop, versus the multinational or the big box or ordering from Amazon, as much as that's convenient. And I have to say, for full disclosure, my husband works at the warehouse in Amazon in Caledonia, so we directly get some pay from that. But yeah, we have to think about these things.
You're already starting your financial disclosure policy.
Right, yeah, right here on GRTV. You heard it first here, folks. And for that matter, separate from city stuff, today is a big day for those of us who do run campaigns, because it's a campaign finance due date. So that's another way to find out,
where the money's coming
right.
from. Speaking of money, things going up, things feeling more expensive. One question that I had recently was that I heard there may be a change in parking prices. I saw later online that isn't the case. What I had heard originally was that parking downtown could increase from $2 an hour to $6 an hour. Residents and business owners were concerned about that change, but it is not an official policy.
No.
But is it something the Commission's considering?
So let me set the record straight. I'm really, really happy you asked this question. I kind of alluded to it earlier. My understanding and my own personal view of it is that this was a situation where we were in one of these distributed positions of decision making, and there was brainstorming. These are working committees. So the mobile GR committee was meeting, the mayor sits on that, and conversation was being had about what we are going to do for a parking investment strategy. So the real story is that we're going to have a parking investment strategy. What might that look like? And they're looking at, right now taking evaluations, assessing the situation, what parking spots are being used, how many garages are being full or not, where, we're balancing these things. Once all of that data gets presented fully, which they're in the process of doing, as they go, conversation happens. But then a plan will be put in place. At that point, recommendations will come from the staff to the city commission to make policy changes that include budgetary pricing. That has not happened. This was a brainstorming situation. The mayor was talking about what would it take to make our parking garages more full instead of filling up spots on the street that could be better used for in and out quick deliveries or visiting our front street side businesses. a comment was made, it was interpreted as a consideration of a proposal, but in my opinion, as a former journalist, it wasn't a story. The story was, we're having an investment strategy, and what would that look like? There was no proposal on the table. So folks, before we get worried about $6 an hour parking on street, that hasn't happened, no budget, no proposal. I would like to see that one just, can we kill it? Can we die? I don't know.
So for all the folks that were following that story that wasn't a story, now you have a full, you can follow this whole conversation about parking plans for the future. Stay with it before you find out.
And any changes
after the changes
to parking would have to be a budgetary ordinance. So
I think we have time for one more question, and we have another one that just came in. Questions from Manny. What has the city budgeted for plowing and salt? I know the last few years we have had light plow years. Does the budget for a light year roll over to pay for heavy years?
Oh, that's a great question.
That's a good question.
I am going to be honest. That is one of those places I don't have all the information off the top of my head. I don't believe that we change our budgetary needs but I don't think they roll over either. I think every year, each department, we're in that process right now, that each department has to submit to the city manager what they expect they're going to need. So a certain amount is allotted for salt, and you know, it's one of those health and safety issues. If there was ever a chance where we were to run out of salt, we would definitely be seeing a new budget amendment coming to us, and we would be voting on that. But that's not the problem. If roads feel like they're not salted right now, it's because the temperatures have been so cold that salt doesn't work. So the best solution is to be sand or some of these other de-icing things that they can do, but plowing and being able to get around cars is going to be far more effective. That's what I have to say. For more details on that, please send me an email. It's abelchak@grcity.us.
Great. That is about all the time that we have for today. So thank you to our guest, AliciaMarie Belchak. Unless there's a final thing you want to say to the folks before.
I'll take 30 seconds and say something, if that's all right.
Have at it.
I want to say thank you to our community, because without you, we don't have a city. So as much as it's hard to say my plow isn't happening, or you know, my bills are going up, I want to say thank you to each and every one of you for doing the very best you can to make our city the greatest that it can be. And I know that we all can step up and do something we haven't done. So my invitation to you is to continue to connect, reach out to me, and who can you help this week or this month? And if you ask that question every day, every month, maybe there'd be somebody new, and maybe we can come up with even better ideas for our city.
Civility. Thank you to all of the folks who watched the show this month, gave your questions, tuned in. Don't forget, you can always watch rebroadcasts throughout November on cable GRTV's Channel 25 or the GRTV YouTube page. See you next month, Grand Rapids.
The Grand Rapids Community Media Center is committed to creating a diverse and inclusive environment for all community members. It is a place where community voices are heard, valued, and lifted through media. We seek to provide area residents with a platform to participate in free speech, be engaged with the community, and share their diverse voices. As a multimedia platform organization, we provide and support a variety of community resources, including our radio station, WYCE 88.1 FM, our TV station, GRTV, our hyper-local news program, The Rapidian, web services, and our historic theater, Wealthy Theater.
WYCE is West Michigan's only community radio station that is listener-supported and volunteer-powered. WYCE uses local voices to help listeners discover and celebrate different services, cultures, and events. What I really like about programming music in WYCE is I get to not only interact with listeners and local musicians, but I get to put together a musical collage every week and give it away to the universe. As a volunteer programmer, you get the training on how to use equipment, how to access music from the library, and how to put together a great show that showcases local and national artists and still has your creativity included.
The Web Services Department helps West Michigan nonprofits connect, learn, create, and share through locally built and accessible websites. We help nonprofits strengthen their online presence by developing one-of-a-kind websites tailored to their specific needs. The Web Services team can take care of all the technical needs of getting a new site up and running, including website hosting, domain name registration, theme development, and page layout. Websites are built with accessibility and responsiveness in mind, making sure our projects are available on any screen and accessible to people of all abilities. We are passionate about helping organizations in the nonprofit sector effectively communicate their stories online, promoting equity and media access with our affordable services.
Wealthy Theater is a historic theater on the southeast side of Grand Rapids. It was built in 1911, and today it stands as a performing arts center, historic cinema, and community venue. We provide a space for community connection, where community members can get together, enjoy different shows and different events. From concerts to comedy, musicals, theater, film screenings, you name it. Anybody from the community can sign up to be a member and rent one of our spaces to host their event. We have a staff here at the theater that helps make all the events here happen, as well as a great community of volunteers. The goal is to bring the community together, bring audiences together, artists together, create experiences where those two can connect. Whether you're an audience member who wants to come see a show or you're somebody who wants to put on a show, Wealthy Theater is a space for you.
The Rapidian is a hyper-local news source powered by, for, and of the people of Grand Rapids, Michigan. We launched in 2009 using funds from local organizations and generous donors, and this community-driven platform empowers residents to share their stories, post articles, and keep track of local events and issues. By emphasizing citizen journalism, the Rapidian provides a unique grassroots perspective and a vital news service for the residents of Grand Rapids. In 2023, we are relaunching the Rapidian with the Grand Rapids Documenters program, where we train and pay local citizens to cover public meetings, empowering residents with the tools and resources to strengthen the news media landscape in Grand Rapids and become more civically engaged.
GRTV airs public access television programming made by and for the Grand Rapids community, amplifying their voices to support a diverse and vibrant democracy. We provide the tools, training, and broadcast platform for free speech. Community members can take classes on video and production features, borrow professional equipment, editing software, and use of our studio facilities to create their own content. We help community members connect, learn, create, and share.